So we're going to be working on a couple of new things in Adobe Animate today. One of the things that we're going to be doing is I'm going to show you how to work with gradients in Adobe Animate. And then I'm going to show you how we're going to make different objects on different layers move together using the parenting command. So let's go ahead and get started. Basically, I'm going to give you an Adobe Illustrator file that you're going to import into your library. You're going to use that as your background, and then we're going to draw an object that we're going to animate on top of it. Okay, so we're here in the Adobe Animate window, and we're going to go ahead and go File, Import. We're going to import it to the library. So I'm going to go File, Import to the library, and it's an Illustrator file called Desert. So I'm going to import it into my library, and in a second, it's going to pop this option box. And basically all of your standard settings here are fine. So we're going to go ahead and just say import. And now it's in my library and it's right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop it in here. And I'm going to place it on my stage and move it over just a little bit, scale it up a little bit by using my transform tool. And that's fine. I just want it to fit. Doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm going to go ahead and lock that layer. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to add a cactus on top of it. And we're going to have a cactus that's going to move back and forth in the breeze. So to get into the cactus layer, to start making this cactus, basically I'm just going to create a new layer. And then I am going to draw a shape of basically the base of the cactus. Okay. Now that's just the outline. Having done that, I can go ahead and select it because remember I've locked my background layer, and I can say modify, convert to symbol. We're going to keep it a graphic and we're going to call it cactus. And we're going to say okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to double click on it in my library and I'm going to edit it. So now what I can do is I can grab my paint bucket tool, and I told you that we're going to work with gradients a little bit. So what I'm going to do is open up, I've got library properties, and I'm going to open up my color, and I'm going to move this over here so you can see it a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and go to my click and pick a swatch color, which I already have down here, and I'm going to use my paint bucket and I'm going to fill it in. Okay, so that's one section of it. Now I do want to put a gradient in, and I can do that by selecting it and then again picking my paint bucket and choosing a gradient. Now that is not a good gradient. Let's take a look at what it looks like. What I want to do is I want to color in the gradient, and I'm going to do that by selecting it, and underneath our free transform tool is the gradient transform tool. And so when I grab on the gradient transform tool, you see that now over here in my color, I can change the colors of the gradient by clicking on each one of these. And I can pick this color, and I can pick this color for my gradient. And since I have my gradient transform tool, I can actually grab this, move it, change it, rotate it into different positions until it fits for what I'm trying to do. Can even move it up or down. All right. So that'll work. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer in this symbol. And I'm going to go ahead and draw another part. I'm going to go ahead and lock the body of the cactus. And I'm going to draw the little arms that you usually see. That's a little off, and I'm going to draw the other arm because I can obviously scale these down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in here, and I'm going to select this arm, grab my eyedropper tool, and I've now grabbed that. And if I go to properties, we can see that the fill is this color. Now I can also come back in with my paint bucket, fill it in like that, and I can do the same thing over here select this guy, fill it in like that. I'm going to get rid of that stroke outside. And now what I can do is I can grab each one of them and I can apply the gradient just like I wanted to before. And I'm going to do it separately so that I can show you that I'm going to pick this color and I'm going to pick this color. And right now it is set to a radial gradient. I mean, I can change that here by making it a linear gradient. And again, if I grab my gradient editing tool, I can move it something like that. Or, you know, if I want to, I can totally get rid of the gradient or just have the gradient be down here at the bottom. You know, it's whatever, you know, whatever I want to do. Can have it linearly like that. And I'm going to grab this and I'm going to grab, I use the eyedropper tool to duplicate that fill over here. I do have to edit the gradient though. I'm going to move layer 1 onto the top. We're going to create this as a symbol. This would be the left side. So I'm going to go ahead and insert or modify, convert to symbol. We'll call it CL. And I'm going to grab this one, modify, convert to symbol, and I'm going to call it CR, left and right. Also, I'm going to go ahead and grab this and use the free transform tool to scale this side down a little bit. I want it to look slightly like not exactly symmetrical. And I'm going to place this one here and place this one here. So now it's sort of looking like a cactus. And what I can do is I can come back and edit each item individually. So let's go back to our library, cactus. So we've got CL, CL. We can come back in here to our cactus, which is where we are. And if I wanted to, I could, you know, put the spiky things on it or whatever, the needles, the spikes. So I'm going to come here to my properties and I'm going to go ahead and reduce the size of my brush. And I'm going to whoops, I'm on the wrong layer. That's what the problem is. I'm going to come here to layer 1, double click it. And I'm going to just add some spiky things. This isn't going to be great. Go ahead and double click on this. Now you see it's getting lost a little bit because the color gradient is there. I'm double clicking this and I'm going to add some spiky things here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color of my brush to a lighter color. As we get further down. It's a pretty spiky looking cactus. Okay, so now what we've got is turn the visibility off on all of these. Layer 1, we've got the main body of the cactus. layer 2, or that's layer 3, and layer 2. I thought so. I thought I had some crazy strokes out there. So I'm going to delete those. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and change the name of this to CB for cactus body. I'm going to change the name of this layer to CL. And I'm going to change the name of this layer to C. Whoops, I'm using lowercase c for cactus and capital for the R. So now we can turn them all back on. And that's what we've got. We're going to go ahead and animate. The main thing that I want you to remember for the animation is that we choose one layer to be the parent, and then from that layer, whenever you move that one layer, the other layers that you have attached to it will automatically do what the parent layer is doing. So let's take a look at that. Now, the one thing that I do want to change and make sure that I do before I move any further is I can see this is a symbol, this is a symbol, this is not a symbol, because we brought it in as an object that we converted to a symbol, and then we edited it. So what I need to do is I'm going to turn off the visibility on this and this, and I'm going to go ahead and convert this to a symbol. And we're going to call it CB, because that's our cactus body. So now that I have this, one thing that I want to change is I want to change the registration point of this cactus, because I don't want it to move from the middle of the body. So what I have to do is I'm going to grab my free transform tool, which may have been obscured under the gradient transform tool. I'll grab my free transform tool, and I'm going to mouse over and watch my cursor change. I'm going to mouse over until I get to that center circle, and I'm going to move that center circle down to here. So now we're good to go. So it's going to rotate from the bottom. In other words, and I'll show you why I did that, because now it's going to roll like this. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and I'm going to change the registration points on these so that it looks something like this. Because again, I don't want them spinning out by themselves. I want them to be like registered onto the body of the cactus. So now we're ready to start parenting. So we grab this icon right here that says show parenting view. And then all we have to do is tell Animate that we want CL to be parented by CB. And we want CR to be parented, and I'm clicking and dragging, by CB. Okay, so now whatever we do to this first one is going to happen to the others. So for example, if I wanted to grab just this one, and in frame 24, add a keyframe, and I'm going to go ahead and add a keyframe for all of them. Whoops, I can grab this and rotate it this way. And you see that all three of them are moving, even though I'm only selecting the first one, the body. So I'm going to move it this way a little bit. It's going to be kind of a dramatic, I mean, I don't think they bend this much, but so that's pretty cool. And now if I grab all of these frames, holding down the shift key, and then I use our keyboard I'm sorry, our button to insert a classic tween, it's going to move like this. So what we may want to do is add a secondary motion so that the main body of the cactus kind of moves first, and then the arms kind of drag behind it and move in a secondary manner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here to like frame 5, and I'm going to insert a keyframe and insert a keyframe. And now I can go ahead and either click here and let me come back. I can control click here and remove the classic tween from that part. Control click here and remove the classic tween from this part. So this is what we're going to start seeing happen. So this is here. And actually what I'm going to do is rotate both of these back just a little bit. And it's so slight, it's really kind of hard to tell. Maybe if I move this one a little further forward. So now we've got a little bit more motion in there. And of course, I can always drag these keyframes further out to make the action longer. And the last thing that I'm going to show you is I can select all of these frames, control click on them, copy the frames, control click here, and then select this frame and shift click those three, and then control click and say paste the frames. And then the last thing that I'm going to want to do is hold down the shift key and select that sequence that I just pasted and say control click reverse frames. So I'm going to loop this animation, and we're going to open it all the way up to here. Now we have this, and now we'll come back to our scene, and let's make our movie 3 seconds long. I'm going to insert a keyframe at frame 75 and a keyframe at frame 75. And then I'm going to test the movie. Let's go ahead and test it in Animate. Now you see that little jump there at the end? That is because, and I will show you, our cactus animation is 61 frames long. So if we want it to be one full cycle, we have to come back to our scene, and we have to make our scene also 61 frames long. So in essence, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete all of these frames. I'm going to control click, remove those frames, and then I'm going to come to frame 61 and insert a keyframe and insert a keyframe. And now if we go ahead and test the movie, it's smooth. It just goes back and forth. So that's basically all you're going to have to do. You're just going to have to bring that in and create a cactus. And again, I've made this video so that you can do it during class time, and you'll be able to reference this and make sure you get it right. So.